Greetings, fellow film fans. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mercy, and this is the Funny Pajamas YouTube channel. So it's once again time to discuss some WandaVision goodness. This time we're discussing episode 6. And I'm giving you a warning straight out, as clearly written in the title. This is a spoiler-heavy discussion. So if you don't want to watch, you don't want to hear any spoilers, go check out the episode first, and then come back and join us, and we can have a lovely discussion. So that's my warning for you guys. And listen, why don't you smash that like and subscribe button, become a subscriber to my channel if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you're notified every time I post something new. So let's start off and jump straight right into it. To begin with, this episode begins a lot like, the starting of the episode is a lot reminiscent of the TV show that was Malcolm in the Middle, particularly the beginning theme song, and how when they get into the sitcom feel, how the characters talk straight to the camera and such. We begin, it's Halloween season, and straight off the bat we see that Halloween season is what you get lots of kids going around trick-or-treating. And how we ended off previously with episode 5 is Vision asking Wanda, where are all the children? There are no children in Westview. So it kind of makes me feel that Wanda is trying to reassure Vision that everything's all right, that everything's under control, and she's got this, you got this, she's got this. And what better way to do that than to have Halloween, where there are lots of children all around, sort of to ease or soothe Vision's curiosity and, questions. Anyway, we see Wanda coming down in the very traditional Scarlet Witch costume, and Vision's in the traditional Vision costume, like as their traditional costumes in the comic books. And you see in the Maximum and the WandaVision family, even Pietro and the two twins seem to be dressed up similar to, paying in costumes that pay homage to their original costumes in the comics. Now, as we begin, Wanda is like, come on, the kids have got to go trick-or-treating. And Vision is like, listen, I'm on neighborhood watch duty, so I gotta go then. And Wanda is like not happy. And this is where you see Wanda, things are not going exactly the way Wanda is. And there does seem to be some sort of tension between Wanda and Vision, probably following last week's episode where they pretty much almost started duking it out. So there does seem to be some, tension between the two. And Wanda and Vision are like, Vision's like, I gotta go for the neighborhood watch. Wanda is like, no, it's their first Halloween, you gotta be there. And then Pietro, yes, the big reveal from last episode, Evan Peters as Pietro Maximoff, Quicksilver. He steps forward and he says, I don't mind taking them. I'll be a stand-in sort of. And we get an introduction to the family dynamics that's going on. And in this, Pietro seems to play the role of the, man-child uncle who sort of got a pretty kiddish side and is all, he's always having fun and the kids love him. He's the cool uncle, sort of. And at the same time, he doesn't seem to be having the best influence on the kids. Anyway, so they decide to go trick-or-treating. Vision leaves and Pietro and the kids, they get ready and they go out for trick-or-treating. Cut to the sword facility. And we see Hayward and Monica, Wu and Darcy, they're sort of in an argument, sort of, like Hayward wants to go all out and, stop hating her, whereas Monica Rambeau is more on the, side of, let's talk to her. She started this. She can be the solution. We could talk her out of it. We need to reason with her. But Hayward is like, no, there's no reasoning with this. And it's this at this point that he says this statement. You're advocating a lot for these superpowered individuals. And this on its own would not have struck me as much had it not been for the fact that just recently, I believe last week, the Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer was released. And in that trailer, there was a similar statement made by, I believe, Zemo. Zemo makes the statement, superpowered individuals should not exist. Superpowered beings should not exist. I'm basically paraphrasing here. But there is a statement he says that. This could be giving us a look at, because events of WandaVision occur a month or so after the blip, after the events of Endgame. So this sort of gives us an idea of what sort of mindset the people are. It sort of gives me an idea that maybe people don't view superhumans people with superpowers as, a godsend as such. There's sort of like a, like a discrimination, like they have a hatred for them. A hatred is developing for them, maybe, and there are people who despise them as such. And this could be interesting because basically, if you see, in the X-Men was basically an allegory for the civil rights movements and stuff. The creators clearly said that they based Professor X and Magneto. They were based off Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who were two opposites, of the same coin. And, this could be giving us our first view of how, throughout the X-Men series, the X-Men are hated upon, they are discriminated upon, they are prejudiced, and people are prejudiced against them because of their mutant powers and their abilities. And that's the basic overarching theme of the X-Men series. So I'm guessing that's going to play in heavily into this. This is totally new field for Marvel. They normally generally do not, they haven't explored this, animosity towards superpowered beings in their content or in their universe. So I'm guessing probably after the blip, after the snap, when half the world's population was, decimated, at that time, I'm guessing people who had to pick up after them, who had to live, survive through basically what was the apocalypse, kind of had, a hatred for them. I think this is what they're trying to introduce here. So basically, Hayward and Monica, they sort of start fighting, and Hayward says this sentence, and then Monica gets angry, and Hayward he says, I'm taking you off this, and he sort of boots them out of the case. He also boots out Wu and Darcy. So now Monica, Wu and Darcy are like, what do? We need to talk to Wanda. The only way to stop this is to get through Wanda, not to antagonize her. So while they're being escorted off the base, Monica and Wu go into kick-ass mode, and they sort of, they go all out, and they manage to overpower their escorts, their armed escorts. And then they manage to sneak back into the base. Meanwhile, cut back to what's going on inside the world of WandaVision. And Pietro and Wanda are sort of talking, they're chit-chatting, they're sort of reminiscing about their pasts and all stuff. And Wanda is like, she's not sure. She knows something's wrong. Like, this person who is supposed to be her brother, I think she knows, he's her brother. But at the same time, he's not the brother she remembered. Seeing as her first brother was like, we know the Quicksilver previously was being played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And here it's being played by Evan Peters. So two totally different people. And then they ask each other's question, and she's like, she sort of tests him to see whether it's really him or whether, it's some trick of some or hallucination or something like that. And he's like, he quips back, and they go back and forth, and she's like, where's your accent? And he's saying, where's yours? Stuff like that. And they come across Herb, one of Wanda's and Vision's neighbors. And Herb is like, I'm on neighborhood watch duty. And meanwhile, Quicksilver is like running around with the kids, He's taking the twins around and then running there, and they're stealing all the candy and all. And then Herb is like, yeah, we got lots of work on the neighborhood watch. And Wanda is like, yeah, Vision's also there, right? And Herb is like, no, Vision's not on neighborhood watch. And that gives us a first look that Vision is still curious. So you see Vision walking towards, the outskirts of town. Wanda is already, she's like, okay, why did he lie to me? You can see it on her face. And then we cut to Vision, who's walking on the outskirts of town. And just as he is walking, he sees all the people there. They seem to be robotically moving, repeating actions, repeating the same action again and again, sort of as if they're stuck in a time loop. And there's this woman who's hanging something, and then she takes it off, hangs it, repetitive movements. And while she's doing it, she's got a blank look on her face. And then a small tear rolls down. That just shows that these people, they seem to be stuck in this, and then at the same time, they be tormented. They want to get out. And then we cut back to the Sword facility, and we've got Darcy, Wu, and Monica Rambeau, and they've broken into the servers, and Darcy hacks into the system. And then hacks into Director Hayward's database. Now, when they first introduced the character of Director Hayward, he didn't strike me off as a bad guy. But as we go further and further, he does seem to be the guy who seems to be antagonizing, who's trying to portray Wanda as the villain. So, I didn't think they'd go in that direction, but see, as we go through these last few episodes, it does seems to be heading in that direction. He seems to, he seems to like really loathe her for some unknown reason. Like I said, maybe because of what they went through. He, of course, survived the snap and he lived the 5 years without the others. So we can see this going on, And then Darcy, like when they break into the system, Darcy hacks in and she's like, and Monica Rambeau's like, okay, she gets a call from some, and my guy is ready, he's got the stuff, we can go back in, I can go back into the hex. And Darcy's like, wait, you cannot go back into that hex because when you went in and came out, your cells were rearranged on on a molecular level. Your body is changing. Your test results are all showing that you cannot go, it could harm you. And like I said, like I have said many times, Monica Rambeau does become Photon, a super powered being. And I'm guessing by the end of the series, she's going to be have fully come into all her powers. What and how much they are take on to, she can change her appearance, shoot energy blasts and stuff like that. So I'm guessing by the end of this series, she's going to come into her past and then move on into, I think she may make an appearance in Miss Marvel, also in Captain Marvel too. So anyway, but Monica is like, she's headstrong. She's like, no, I need to get her to stop. And she's like really stubborn. So Darcy's like, okay, you go ahead. I'll stay here. Meanwhile, Vision is walking further towards the outskirts of town. And by the way, while Darcy, Wu and Monica are, while they've hacked into the computer, they see that, Director Haver's got tracking. He's tracking Vision's movements. He's tracking the vibranium, the vibranium signals. But the problem is, maybe it could be that he placed a tracking beacon when Vision was inside the SWORD facility. Now, I will bring to the point this. We do see in the previous episode, Scarlet Witch Wanda breaking into the SHIELD facility. Sorry, the SWORD facility. I keep saying SHIELD. I'm sorry. Forgive me. My bad. The SWORD facility, and where they are experimenting on Vision's body. It's possible that when they were doing this, they could have placed a tracker inside him, but that's just pure speculation. Anyway, Director Hayward seems to be tracking all of them. He knows the location of all the people within the hex as such. And you see, they come to notice that the people around towards the boundary, near the boundary, are not moving. They all seem to be frozen. We cut back to Vision, and Vision has entered this area, and he saw the people who seem to have some motion, and they seem to be repeating that motion. But now he comes face to face with people who are actually frozen on the spot. He goes forward and tries to talk to a woman, and she's not responding. She's just standing there with a blank look on her face. So he drops his guise of that, of the quintessential Vision outfit, and he is back in his all Avengers regalia, and he flies up. And when he goes up to get an aerial view, he sees a car with the headlights on right near the boundary, the end of the town. And when he goes and sees it's Agnes, Catherine Hahn. And Catherine Hahn is like, Agnes is like, she's sitting there, she's in a witch costume, and she's sort of just staring out. And he's sort of, Agnes, what are you doing here? What's going on, And then when he gets no response from her, he sort of uses his power and touches his head. Similar to what he did to Norm. He touches her head and she wakes up and she's startled and she's scared and she's hysterical and like, oh my God, what's going on? You're an Avenger, aren't you? You can help us, And then Vision's like, what's an Avenger? And she's like, oh my God. She starts getting hysterical and she starts laughing and, she's sort of going crazy and she's like, am I dead? And Vision's like, no, you're not. Why? And she's like, because you are. And this is with, Vision, you can see, is purely puzzled, and then she starts laughing hysterically and she seems to be losing her mind. And Vision just touches her head again and snaps her out and brings her back into her thing. And just before he does that, she said, she won't let us go. She won't let us even think of leaving this place. So now we know that Wanda has enough control so that she can change people's thoughts itself. Not only is she keeping them trapped, she's able to manipulate their thoughts to such an extent that their total free will is removed. She's able to inject thoughts, make them act and behave in weird ways. So Wanda does seem to have a lot more control than what I personally had originally thought. And I will, in all my videos, I have thought and theorized and speculated that maybe Agnes is Agatha Harkness. But after this, I don't know. Was Agnes a red herring that they threw out there sort of to get us off track? And of late, they've been having theories of maybe Nightmare. There are rumors of Nightmare being being the villain of Doctor Strange too. So some are saying that maybe Nightmare is the one in charge. So anyway, those are theories and speculations going wild on the internet. And I, for one, I so definitely thought that Agnes had something to do with, she still could be. Maybe this was all a misdirect. Maybe she's trying to misdirect. Or maybe the suspicion they placed on her to begin with itself was a misdirect. But whatever, she snaps out of it and she turns around and drives back. Now Vision looks and he starts walking and he comes across the barrier and he uses all his power and all his strength to push through the barrier and he exits it. And as he exits it, he's like screaming in pain and agony, and like parts of him are beginning to, chunks of him are coming off, and flying back into the hex. And he's like falling and like slowly he's getting, pieces of him are like sort of just coming out and all, sort of, he's like disintegrating and it's so painful looking. And Hayward is like, he just stands there and watches. He and his men just stand and watch. And Darcy is like, what are you doing? And she runs forward and says, you got to stop, help him. You've got to get him back inside. He's dying. And they like and Hayward's like, restrain her sort of, And then they handcuff her to a jeep. Now, meanwhile, Monica Rambeau and Wu have gone off to meet this mysterious person. We'll come to that a little later. This mysterious person who is supposed to give them the tech they need to get into the hex. So they're far off. Darcy decides to stay back. Now, Darcy is handcuffed to the jeep. Vision's crying out in pain and agony. Now, we also see in this episode that the twins do have superpowers. Like, as was theorized, they are going to grow up to become Wiccan and Speed. So one has the powers of Pietro. The other one seems to be having powers more in line with Wanda. And he's able to hear Vision's voice screaming. So, he's trying to pay attention. Meanwhile, Wanda and Pietro, they're talking. And Pietro is like, hey, Wanda, this is great here. The life you've given these people are like, it's so much better. They have better jobs, they have better hair and all that stuff. And you're giving them a better life. If I had a dream paradise place like this where everything was happy, I wouldn't want to leave it either. So how did you do it anyway? And that's when Wanda's like, all I knew was pain, sadness, and emptiness, and I was hollow. I'm basically paraphrasing here. And then, and then all of a sudden it happened. So we see here that though Wanda controls, there is an outside force that seems to be controlling her. And she'll ask Pietro, what about you? Pietro is like, 1 minute I was lying, I had been shot and I was lying dead on the street. Then I heard your voice. And the next thing I know, we're here. Now we do know in Age of Ultron, he was shot down by Ultron. So she turns and then she catches a glimpse, and there's one more, that creepy moment in one of the episodes where Vision, we see corpse Vision. He's pale, like half his forehead missing and eyes are glassy. She turns and sees, and suddenly there is a corpse version of Pietro with the bullet holes, on his chest, and, with the glassy eyes and the dead, pale skin, And then she's so shocked, and then she looks again and he's back to normal. And then at this point, her son, who has heard Vision crying out in pain, he comes running. He comes running and tells her, Mom, Dad's in trouble. You have to save him. And, he's dying. I can hear him. He's dying. And Pietro is like, what? No, your dead husband cannot die twice, or something like that, he says. And Wanda is so pissed. She uses her power and blasts Pietro. This just shows how much Wanda wants to be in control of this. She doesn't want to give this up for anything. So in all her anger, she releases her powers and freezes everyone on the spot. She sends out a blast, and a blast radius sort of thing, and the hex begins to expand. The area it's covering begins to expand. Now, as it covers more and more, it morphs the things back into the that era, things of that era. So as the hex is expanding, you've got all the sword guys standing there, at the on the border. They all start running and they many of them get sucked in. Somehow Hayward and a few of his men manage to escape, but Darcy is still, handcuffed to the jeep, so she also gets sucked in. So we can see the change. Like their tents where they had all their equipment, once it goes beyond the boundary, once the boundary crosses that, once the boundary of the hex crosses it, you see the tents turning into, carnival tents, and a lot of the soldiers turning into clowns and just normal people. Where they have parked all their vehicles turns into a used car, shop, like a used car store sort of thing. And like it's expanding, and Hayward manages to escape with a few of his people. The rest are all absorbed into it, and the hex continues growing. And then they show a picture of Wanda. She opens her eyes, it's red, and then roll credits. So on the whole, this episode was, I'll tell you honestly, I did not want the episode to end there. I'm now, oh my god, you had to end the episode there. Couldn't you give us just a little bit more? Now there are lots of theories going on around. Now we do know the children, the two twins. The two twins are superpowered, Wiccan and Speed. And I'm guessing and a lot of theories also going on about that. The whole thing revolves around them. Then again comes to the question, what about the other children? Did Wanda bring in children from other places to populate it for Halloween? Or what are they? And also, are the people really dead? Did she bring up dead people? Because we do know in the previous episode she talks that I cannot bring back the dead, sort of. But then it comes, where did all those children come from? Children who were never there in Westview to begin with. Now we see Wanda's going mad. She's starting to expand her powers. And though we know she has control of it, we also seem to know that she doesn't know how it all started. How this whole thing came into being, what happened. I'm guessing some other exterior motive came in. Some people are saying that maybe, director Hayward is Mephisto, or maybe he's Nightmare. But, the way they're portraying Hayward seems to be make him the antagonist, mainly on an antagonizing role. But I do believe at the end of this, Wanda is going to have a really tough time, because she's got to come to terms with the fact that Vision's dead. And in the end, it's going to be a bit of a tragedy, I believe. I don't think the series is going to end on a very happy note. And what is the deal with those kids? I don't really know. And I'm not ready to let go of my theory of, my speculation that, Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness. So there's all that. This episode gave a lot more to, think and theorize on. Also, let's talk about this. When the mysterious person that seems to be able to bring the tech to Monica. In the previous episode, we saw she calls up an aerospace or aerodynamics engineer. I'm not sure which one. An aerodynamics engineer. She decides to call him, and they don't show us who it is. And we also see that while Darcy is hacking into the database, she finds something, but they don't tell us what it is she finds. So they've given us lots of hooks, lots of ideas, and keep us guessing what's going on. Now, while the first 3 episodes did focus a lot on the sitcom-y feel, they didn't give us much to, theorize or talk about. But the last 3 episodes, it's like I watch it once and I go back and watch it multiple times, pausing it at every sentence, wondering, hey, does this sentence have a second meaning or such and all? And they seem to be really working and leaning into it. And I especially like where they made this particular joke about Kick-Ass, okay? And for those of you who don't know, Kick-Ass is a movie in which both the Quicksilver starred. The Aaron Taylor Johnson, that is the MCU Quicksilver, played Kick-Ass. And his friend was played by Evan Peters, who is the Fox Quicksilver. So that was kind of neat also there. And I enjoyed this episode. I will say my past 2 episodes were a lot better, but this episode gave me a lot to theorize on. I actually rewatched the episode, so at least 3 times immediately as soon as I watched it, and I'm loving it for what it is. I hope you are enjoying it as much as I do. Now, this is the typical type of fare that we come for an MCU content, and I'm sure it's got people hooked. What did you do? Is it keeping you hooked? Are you enjoying it? If you've got more wild theories and speculations, comments section down below, let me know what you think. You can always contact me simply on Twitter, simply at mercy_d, on Instagram at mercy_sd, or you can visit the Funny Pajamas Facebook page simply at funny.pajamas. And you can always email me simply at mercy@funny-pajamas.com. It's put up here on the screen next to me. And you can also always visit the website. So do go and visit that website, www.funny-pajamas.com. Pajamas everywhere with a Y. Thanks for turning up, guys. Love to talk WandaVision, Marvel content, Star Wars content, basically all entertainment content. And love to hear from you. Hope to hear from you soon. Hit the comment section down below. Always love to hear from you. And that's all I have for you right now. This is Mercy signing out. Bye. Have a good one, everyone.